you always respect the ocean, because at any point, the ocean always has a way of humbling, me and anyone, and just sort of says, just don't forget who's boss. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I'll do as I'm told. So yes, really does follow on sort of chronologically from where we left off last time, because it was amazing chatting to you guys, and certainly Jason. Just all around, the whole idea for the Great British Swim was inspired by Captain Webb, 1875, English Channel. No one said it could be done, and he just had a point to prove. It was for personal reasons. It was for that sense of accomplishment for himself, intrinsic reasons, and that was the GB Swim. And I know when we left that, I actually said, I'm sort of semi-retired. The goggles are kind of collecting dust. So I swam a lot. Just for the love of it. And I said I would dust them off and do a big swim for a higher purpose, for a cause, for a campaign, something. But I just wasn't interested in swimming for races and records anymore. And then it was only 2 months ago now, with the Talisker and Parley partnership, that came around. And interestingly, I found out about, there was that huge meta study finding out that only 13% of the world's oceans are actually truly untouched and wild. And that was in 2018, just after the GB Swim. So it kind of happened like that chronologically. I was meant to be going out to La Gomera, obviously, for the row, which I love. I go every single year. I'm the biggest fan. And when rowing, I found out, no, I'm awful at rowing. No, I'm not very good on the water. I'm good in it.
Just swimming alongside. Yeah,
exactly it. Yeah. So fast forward, and then basically, picked up the phone, chatting to Talisker and Parley. I was like, I want to help. I want to do something, around this partnership to rewild our seas. I just don't know what to do, because my only skill set is floating and eating. And they were like, maybe that's enough. why don't you? And this idea, swimming, towards the sun, came around, and I was like, all right, fine. Jurassic Coast, sunrise, and I just started swimming as fast as possible, as far as possible, for this latest adventure, which was for that higher purpose and cause that I talked about at the end of our last chat. Yeah. So the goal is 100 million square meters to basically, at the moment, like I said, that 13% of our world's oceans are only truly wild. So the goal is 100 million square meters of truly wild ocean, to preserve and protect that. That's the overall goal. But we're really at the very start of that right now. So it's only just now that we're seeing, how do we get from A to B? It's months old, might only be weeks old, the partnership between Talisker and Parley. So that was why, with this swim, it really did, in my head, I just wanted it to serve as a catalyst, just to start the conversation with everything that's happening with COVID and everything else in the world right now. The ocean and what's happening, it's just, with overfishing, coral reefs dying, kelp forests, no one's talking about it. It's almost the COVID of the ocean, but no one's talking about it. So that's basically why I did it. That's it. Like I said, I've got a very niche skill set, floating and eating. And I was like, if I could use that to at least open this conversation, it'll be worth it. Like I said, I think, like, with everything that we're doing right now, when you start looking at everything from like climate change, biodiversity, everything like that, the ocean, I think, for a lot of people is this thing that's kind of over there. It's this abstract idea. People are like, oh, that's, even the melting of the Arctic poles with Arctic ice at the moment, still not, the Arctic ice is still not, I believe it's only just started to now freeze over, but it was still going into October and it wasn't freezing over. So that's something that's kind of up there. We don't know about that because we're sitting here in England, and that's up there. So I think that's why it's so important. Parley it gives the ocean a voice. This is one thing that I've said time and again. The ocean doesn't really have a voice. With a lot of other movements, a lot of campaigns, a lot of charities, it's quite easy to begin that narrative, begin educating people about it. Attenborough says, that all of the threats facing our world right now are a communications issue as much as it is a scientific one. And I just think, with that said, no one was actually giving the ocean a voice. And that's why Parley are just brilliant at what they do, and the ambassadors as well. So I was, like I said, I'm a weird, oddly shaped swimmer, but I was like, if I can help amplify the voice, I'll try. They do an amazing job, and that's what I'm trying to do, amplify as a catalyst what they already do. Yeah, so I suppose there was a few different reasons. Obviously, with the kelp forest down there, it was almost symbolic of that. Also, as well, it was a little bit warmer. And then I think, obviously, with Parley and Talisker, we were talking home to 40,000 different species, marine species. So there was those reasons. It was very much symbolic. Jurassic Coast as well. It was symbolic for those reasons. For personal reasons, I have to be honest. I did Lulworth Cove, Old Harry's Rocks, Portland Bill, basically that entire bit. I did that in the dark on my first lap of Great Britain. Right. So I didn't actually get to see it. So for personal reasons, it was nice to see it in the daytime. I go, oh, that's what it looks like, because I just couldn't see it. So there was personal reasons. And then also as well, just in terms of the team as well, I always talk about this. It was such a team effort. I'm just the one that floats. So as a team, we all sat down and just like, where can we get to? Where do we feel safe, comfortable? Where do we know the tides, the currents, the coastline? And it just ticked all those boxes. So it was kind of, symbolic reasons, safety and logistics reasons, and personal reasons. There was a few different things, I suppose, to prepare for it, just because I was training up here in Chester in Manly Mere in the lake up here, and that got down to about 4 degrees. And I was doing a lot of ice swimming, so just wearing nothing but my trunks and a smile. And that wasn't like too bad. So I'm not saying it was toasty warm this weekend, just gone. But in comparison, it wasn't as bad. Obviously, we went wetsuit as well because we knew that we were going to be in from sunrise to sunset, which was, I think it was around 7 hours, 11 minutes, something like that. So that's a long time just to be in the water. And I suppose my only, the only part of my body that was really exposed was my face, but it was just like by the end, I could not feel my lips. My face was just frozen. I was trying, and they were feeding me off the boat. The support team were amazing. They just had like throwing me bananas, and I didn't even know if I was putting the banana in my face because it was so numb. So I was pushing it into my nose and think I'm just dribbling banana because I can't chew. So it got pretty ropey towards the end because I couldn't keep taking on the amount of calories that I needed because my jaw wouldn't work. It was just so cold. But yeah, so it was. And I think there's a few reasons. And then also as well, it was kind of good because entering into Christmas, it means you can just eat what you want because you want that body fat. You want to be insulating a little bit. And then because I've just been out in Australia as well, was training out there with the Hemsworths. So it was quite cool that obviously he's bulking up for Thor. And I was just bulking up just because I was there. So it was quite nice to add that level of bulk going into this, which I didn't really, it kind of inadvertently happened, but it was quite nice when it did because you just don't be, really lean or without much muscle mass when attempting something like that because muscle mass is thermic, generates heat, body fat is insulating, keeps heat. It's one of very few sports where you can be just lifting barbells and eating burgers.
That's my kind of sport. That is my kind of sport.
It's your sport, Mark. Get involved in the next one. Yeah, I mean, not necessarily that I hadn't seen before, because after 157 days, you see quite a lot. But the ocean always kind of surprises you. And I think what was so nice this time around was towards the end, we were like 5 hours in. And, it was really getting towards the business end. My mouth was just like completely numb. I was really struggling. And then 2 dolphins just appeared, ended up swimming with us for a few hours, probably just wondering what I was doing. Because obviously no one else was in the swimming pool that day. And they were like, what are you doing? Like, you strange sea mammal. So that was really nice. They kind of kept me company for a little bit. They were really inquisitive, wondering what was going on. And I was like, guys, I can't stop and play. I'm swimming for charity. This is to rewild the seas. I'm doing this for you. So I just had to keep swimming while they just ended up swimming around me, wondering what I was doing. It's too cold for the jellyfish. But I was prepared with the beer just in case a rogue one did decide to appear. I'm not necessarily concerned because the safety team and the crew were amazing. I always say that it's such a team sport. And that's no way in my self-deprecating. It's such a team sport. I'm just the one that floats. And the guys, there was just heroics from the guys on the rib. So Nick and Steve, they were the skippers. They were amazing. They've lived in Weymouth for 40 years. They've been up and down those waters. So particularly around Portland Bill, you get what's I can only describe as this oceanic cocktail of things that can go wrong or right. because you get like spring tides, so they're like going pinging past Portland Bill. So you get rapid tides and current, but then the wind is coming the other way. So you get wind over tide. So they all of a sudden start to build up. You get an Atlantic swell coming in. So you add to that. And then below the surface, you get these trenches in varying depths. So if you can imagine all of those things just churn up the water. And there was parts, like certainly past like Lulworth Cove before we got there. Yeah. It was just like whitewater rapids. I think there's, Polly will probably have, there's a great picture that Theo, the photographer, took, like hanging off the boat, and I'm on the crest of the wave and he's at the bottom. And yeah, I'm a good like 8 foot above him. And he was just like, oh, hey, Ross. But it just comes from experience. The team just, had sailed those waters for 40 years. So they knew what were, you know, that we were okay. But you always, I think, I'm glad you asked that, Mark, because it's like, you always respect the ocean. Because at any point, as much as experience as I have, the ocean always has a way of humbling, you know, me and anyone, and just sort of says, you know, just don't forget who's boss. And I'm like, yes, absolutely, I'll do as I'm told, you know. So yeah, especially around that coast. Fish and chips. We went away because we thought there'd probably be some decent fish and chips there, so we went there, and then genuinely it was just so nice. I think Polly has some pictures, but as a team we all just ended up pouring a dram, and we just reflected on over a campfire on what actually happened. And I think that's all. It's probably my favorite bit every single time, because it's that like bonding and camaraderie through shared hardship. And so there's just, you know, although we were only out at sea for 7 hours, you know, we all just came back and they're like, oh my God, can you remember when, like, you know, Ellie was sick, and that was disgusting. Oh, she was almost sick on me. Oh, I remember when, you know, so everyone's just got stories to tell, like their own views of the dolphins, the sunset, the sunrise. So that's always the best bit that I think anyone can relate to. When me, you and Foxy were talking, and we were talking about that, just like, you know, shared hardship, you end up building bonds that you only really get, you know, when Foxy was talking about getting a boil lanced off his his bum. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's bonding to the next level, isn't it? Really, I mean, that is something else. But
that is a good question. Just because, as amazing as it was this weekend, we all as a team have sat down and said that was a really good training swim. So it was just kind of notched down as you know, that was good. Speeds were good. Distance was good. Feeding strategy. So it's now laid the foundations for some big swims in 2021. But with that said, with COVID and everything, we don't really know, like, actually, you know, the very nature of adventure, it's kind of hard at the moment because you just don't know where you can travel and various things. So we don't know, but this has given us all the metrics and data that we needed to think of something bigger for 2021 that would be along the lines of the Great British Swim a little bit more. So that was what was really good. Whereas if something had gone wrong, I had, you know, just gassed after an hour and gone, oh my God, I'm not as fit as I used to be. Then we'd go, all right, let's not think of anything for 2021. But it seems I've probably got a little bit more swimming in me based on what we did this weekend. So yeah, 2021's been pretty cool. Massively appreciate that, Mark. Yeah, it's just like I said, at the moment, it's that the partnership is months old. So at the moment, what we're saying, you can donate, and it would be hugely appreciated. And on the website on Parley, as you know, on the Talisker one, with rewildOurSeas.com, it will talk about where that money goes with research, the preservation and protection of all these marine ecosystems. But at the moment, we're also just saying, like, please just kind of build awareness, share this story. You know, let's just start a dialogue, because with everything else that's going on in the world, we also need to have a conversation about the oceans, because no one else is.